Episode 275, The Return of the Heavenly Demon, 7. With a wide open lake in the background. Sitting in a pavilion, a bearded old man and a young man sip tea. It's already been 10 years since Cheonma Bak Junhyuk died. When I first entered the world of Jungwon martial arts world, it was already Cheonma Bak Junhyuk's world, so I couldn't believe the stories that had been passed down through the generations. However, the more I learned about him, the more I realized that the truth wasn't exaggerated at all. No, it was lacking. The history of martial arts tells us that the people who followed Cheonma played a decisive role in the process of the demonic cult unifying the martial arts world, but that's not the truth. The man wet his mouth with tea. The old man who was listening to the conversation with interest was one of the masters of the Jongpa martial arts world who once fought against Cheonma Bak Junhyuk. Just one person. The power of Cheonma Bak Junhyuk overwhelmed the Jongpa martial arts world. Every time he appeared, the results were overwhelming, and the day he destroyed Shaolin marked a definite end. From the beginning, it was a fight that was doomed to be lost because he could not destroy a single being. The Jongpa martial arts world, which recognized this fact, rapidly collapsed after conserving its power for future generations. You are right. When the 108 Arhats of Shaolin were slaughtered by a single person, we recognized that we had no chance of winning. Then I have a question for you. In the history of the demonic cult, the only one who has reached the realm of heaven is Cheonma Bak Junhyuk. The unification of the martial arts world is also an achievement that he alone has achieved. Is the martial arts of the demonic cult that brought Cheonma Bak Junhyuk to that position, Cheonma Shingong, truly the greatest martial arts in the world? I was curious. Cheonma Shingong. The best martial arts in the world will be remembered in history for a long time just by that title alone. The old man laughed. He took a sip of tea and muttered something vague. That may be true. Bak Junhyuk, the heavenly horse who reached the realm of the heavenly realm, was a godlike being that no one could approach. However, those who have not experienced the fierce historical scene do not know the true truth. What do you mean? At that time when the Jongpa Murim admitted defeat, Cheonma Bak Junhyuk was still at the level of the earth. Later, he reached the level of heaven using the enlightenment he had gained during that time as a stepping stone, but the Cheonma Bak Junhyuk we encountered was no different from the level that the previous Cheonmas had achieved. Do you know what that means? There was no answer. The man was speechless. According to the old man's words, the achievement of conquering the martial arts world was not easy to understand. Clearly, the history of the Central Plains martial arts world remembers the overwhelming existence of Cheonma Bak Junhyuk. It was something that could not be explained without being an unprecedented feat of the highest level. The old man said, "It's a simple matter. Cheonma Bak Junhyuk was just an out-of-the-box being." Kurururiring. A cloud of dust arose. The sight of a massive army of 300,000 men rushing forward at once was an overwhelming sight that overwhelmed those who saw it. Dimitri, the soldiers of the Cairo Union swallowed dry saliva. As we prepared for war, we knew this moment would come, but actually accepting what we saw was another matter. My legs were shaking. They clenched their teeth and opened their eyes wide in fear that was slowly rising. In front of your eyes. Roman Dimitri was seen walking towards his enemies. People looked at him with complicated expressions at his unwavering steps and how he could be so righteous. While showing blind faith in Roman Dimitri, rational judgment showed that even Roman Dimitri would be swept away by that large force. This war was wrong from the start. With only Cairo and Dimitri's power, it was impossible to defeat the Kronos Empire. That was when Cheonma Gunrimbo. Just one step. Roman Dimitri stepped onto the ground. Daily report. The energy of the earth rose up through his legs, intertwined with the heavenly demon spirit in his dantian, and released explosive power. The first step in the middle part of the Cheonma sword technique. Flash. He stretched out his sword. Before the enemy could even reach him, the people did not realize exactly what Roman Dmitri was doing as he swung his sword. The massacre that shocked the people began from then on. A swirling energy from the sword cut through the space, swiping away the soldiers of the Kronos Empire before they could even get close. Boom. Quaw. Dozens. No. There were hundreds. In a single blow, countless enemies were torn to pieces, and the enemies who had been charging at us fiercely showed expressions of bewilderment. What the hell is going on? Roman Dmitri was not a wizard specializing in dealing with multiple people, but rather an aura inspector. His body was still rushing towards Roman Dmitri, but his mind could not process the scenes unfolding on the battlefield. Part. Quaw. Kicked the ground. Roman Dmitri disappeared from sight, and when he returned he was flying into the air. The sunlight was shining. Mixed with the aura, a desperate reality crashed down on their heads. Boom. Quack 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 quang. Ugh. EWW. The enemy forces were swept away. It was so annihilated that even the corpses were not intact, and it showed such overwhelming destructive power that holes were created in the ranks of the enemies who were charging at them. Cheonma Gunrimbo meant accepting the energy of nature and blending it with the energy of Cheonma Shingong. If one step received a force of 1, 2 steps received a force of 2, and 3 steps received a force of 3. Blast furnace. Widely. Second step. When Roman Dmitri manifested the heavenly demon lords Rimbo and raised mana, the people saw an unbelievable sight. The middle part of the Cheonma sword technique, Li Cho Sik. Flash. The space flew away. The place where the aura passed by was instantly annihilated, so much so that it would be appropriate to describe the object that flew away as space. It was completely different from what people expected. When I think of close combat, I think of fierce fighting with people getting entangled in each other, but many people were dying before they could even reach Roman Dmitri. Cheonma Gunrimbo, like Cheonma sword technique, has no form. Roman Dmitri, with his second step in progress, dug into the midst of his enemies. Pot. Puppet. Blood spurted out. The sword was swung with extreme speed, cutting through the enemy's bodies to the point that it was impossible to even tell how it was being swung. Screams were heard from all directions. Although they shouted and shouted for Roman Dmitri to attack them somehow, those who encountered Roman Dmitri's presence lost consciousness in an instant. To manifest all 9 steps, one had to reach the heavenly realm. However, Cheonma Bakyung Hyuk conquered the Central Plains martial arts world before he could even reach that level. Sambo. Boom. Quaw. The earth rose. The balance of the enemies collapsed, and blood was once again sprayed from the exploding aura. It was a massacre. Rather than a common-sense confrontation where the two sides exchanged blows, a picture was created where Roman Dmitri unilaterally slaughtered his enemies. When the Duke of Bamford raised his voice and ordered an attack, it was a sight I could not have imagined. I didn't know that a situation where an army of 300,000 people was advancing could be dealt with in this way. Shaolin. The Central Plains martial arts world. Never been weak. The Kronos Empire also gained the power to rule the continent, but like the Jompa, it was caught in the wrong era. An existence outside the scope of the discussion. That was Cheonma Bakyung Hyuk. From the moment he reached the realm of the earth and accepted the power of the fire demon, Dmitri was equipped with the power to stand against the empire of Kronos. That doesn't mean Dmitri got stronger. The single figure of Roman Dmitri now exerted an overwhelming presence not only in small-scale fights between territories but also in large-scale fights between nations. Sabo. The middle part of the Cheonma sword technique, the 3-step style. In 1 step. A fitting blow. When Roman Dmitri stretched out his sword, hundreds of soldiers disappeared in an instant. Boom. Core. A cloud of dust arose. When I walked back out through the thick cloud of dust, a different sight unfolded before me. An army of 300,000 men. They did it without anyone ordering them to. As if it were a lie, he stopped walking and looked at Roman Dmitri with a face full of fear. I got goosebumps. Right now, at this moment. Everyone knew. In order to kill just one Roman Dmitri, it would take the lives of many people to be sacrificed. It was an absurd situation. Throughout the history of the continent, there have been many great geniuses, but not a single one of them has achieved the absurd feat of overwhelming an army of 300,000. Roman Dmitri was a historical figure. Everything he did was an overwhelming sight compared to anything recorded in history. My heart atrophied. If things continued this way, a one-sided massacre like a wolf released into a flock of sheep would be unavoidable. That was when. Knights of Kronos, follow me. It was Hannibal. In a situation that was turning out to be unusual, he came forward with a stern expression, unlike usual. He is called the demon of Kronos because he enjoys the act of killing people. The battlefield was like a playground to him, but he couldn't help but laugh when he had to deal with Roman Dmitri. The Knights of Kronos, including him. It amounted to hundreds. They all displayed an aura of determination to deal with Roman Dmitri. Roman Dmitri. Hannibal and the knights. They approached each other. As everyone held their breath in suffocating tension, Hannibal shouted like lightning and exploded his aura. Attack! Attack! Quarring! Quar! He rushed at me like a hawk. Hannibal and the knights were originally dispatched to deal with Roman Dmitri, and although they witnessed an overwhelming sight, they had no intention of backing down. The opponent is the enemy of Kronos. Now that they had been ordered into battle by His Majesty the Emperor, the only options available to them were death or victory. Hundreds to one. They ran towards each other. At the moment when a fierce clash finally occurred, the situation that the Kronos Empire had feared occurred. Flash. Phew. Ugh. Ugh. I heard a scream. As Roman Dmitri swung his sword, the bodies of the Kronos knights were torn apart, and they remained entangled, not allowing even a single attack from the enemies. When the Knight of Kronos attacked his head, he dodged and cut off his head. When attacked from all sides, he raised his aura and suppressed them with his strength. The faces of the Kronos knights were stained with confusion. They knew it was overwhelming, but when they actually faced it, they were terrified. Phew. Blood spurted out. A moment of hesitation could mean immediate death, but Roman Dmitri did not stop moving forward. Sudden. Quar. The aura surged in. The Knights of Kronos, who flew up by stepping on the corpses of their comrades, failed to achieve their intention and ended up spewing blood. Even as I was losing consciousness, my mind was filled with questions. How could one human be so strong? And how they died, they could not accept the reality unfolding before their eyes. What a crazy kid. Boom. Quack 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 quang. Hannibal's aura exploded. Although he displayed an aura of tremendous power befitting his worldly fame, Roman Dmitri nonchalantly blocked all of Hannibal's attacks. Meanwhile, the Knights of Kronos were dying. Hannibal's presence did not overwhelm Roman Dmitri at all, and he simply watched as the knights around him were slaughtered. How on earth could this happen? Hannibal was a powerful man who overwhelmed Barbossa, but Roman Dmitri was able to outwit him even more easily than Barbossa. It was a truth they could not know. In his journey to Butler, Count Nicholas, and Barbossa, Roman Dmitri has come to fully understand the nature of aura. What started as a single question became a conviction, and the experience gained over time completely destroyed the enemy's powerful weapons. Quar. Aura breaking. It was no match for him. Chris and Kevin, the reason they were able to produce, out of the ordinary, results against the best aura inspectors was because they had inherited the teachings of Roman Dmitri. No other being, but Roman Dmitri. A great being who will redefine the history of aura inspection in the future. Only then did Hannibal realize. Roman Dmitri. I didn't kill myself on purpose. While he was attacking frantically, he slaughtered the knights of Kronos in an instant. Bego. Cut. Cut again. The massacre was accompanied by screams. Hannibal, who had been struggling so much, suddenly realized that he was the only one around him. That was when. Flash. Ugh. Hannibal screamed. The world has fallen apart. Hannibal realized belatedly that his leg had been cut off as the pain radiated from it. I couldn't believe it. Cronus ranking second. Ranked third in the continent. He was a person who should not have been defeated like this. The reputation of being called the demon of Cronus and the accomplishments he had made proved what kind of person Hannibal was. My body was trembling. Suppressing the pain, Hannibal looked up at Roman Dmitri with eyes filled with shock. You, Hannibal, demon of Kronos. I've heard rumors about you. Since the fall of the Western Front, you've enjoyed torturing captured soldiers every night. A conversation between two people. Everyone heard. Duke Bamford watched the situation unfold, but could not bring himself to give the order to attack Roman Dmitri. Roman Dmitri met Hannibal's gaze. I squatted down and looked at him. I don't think it's strange at all if inhumane acts are committed on the battlefield. The battlefield is too real a world to talk about such things. However, touching my people is a different matter. If someone tortures and causes pain to my people, I will inflict the same, or even more, pain on them. That's how I, Roman Dmitri, live. Bam. Cough. He grabbed the lower body. He grabbed the tooth with his hand and pulled it out. Ugh. Screamed. Hannibal writhed in pain, trying to break free from Roman Dmitri. Okay then. Stay still. Crunch. I broke my arm. To prevent Hannibal from rebelling any longer, to keep his pitiful hands from reaching him, Roman Dmitri not only cut off both of his legs, but also broke both of his arms. Hannibal's terrified gaze fell on Roman Dmitri. He had enjoyed torturing people enough to be called a demon, but this was the first time he had seen someone commit such cruel acts in the middle of a battlefield. Like that. Roman Dmitri pulled out his teeth one by one. Whether Hannibal made a fuss or not, the demon's actions returned the same as those of the people who spoke with faces filled with fear. In this vast plain, it was packed with hundreds of thousands of soldiers. However, no one opened their mouth. I was even careful about my breathing. As if they were the only two people in the space, the troops on both sides watched the scene in silence.